What's up, BookTube? Sandy Golson back here with my February 2021 TBR. Books that I'm excited about reading, and I hope you'll get excited about reading. I'll talk about those next. So, getting started with my TBR for February 2021, I'm going to jump into 4 books that are carryovers from January of 2021 that I still want to get read so I can try to be a little bit more true to my TBRs, even though things come up and book of the month books are delivered, or books that you just stumble across while you're on the web or through word of mouth that just pop up that you end up reading and you end up changing your plans. And so obviously TBRs are never really set in stone. So let's just keep that in mind. So with that, I will give you these 4 books that I'm carrying over from January that if you want to learn a little bit more about what these books are about, go back and check out my January TBR, and that'll give you a little bit more in-depth information. So first up is The Girl in the Mirror by Rose Carlyle, and this is one I'm excited about because it's another one of those sibling stories that just kind of grabs my attention, and so looking forward to another sibling mystery type story. Next up is A Danger to Herself and Others by Alyssa Scheinmel, and this is another one that is kind of interesting because it takes place inside a psychiatric hospital, so that was kind of interesting to me to get some of those dynamics there, and kind of the psychological part just seemed really interesting to me. Next up is Still Lives by Maria Hummel, and this is kind of a mystery story. A person goes missing around some celebrity type stuff in Los Angeles, and so it just seemed really interesting, exciting for me, so I decided, hey, why not me? Why not now? Next up is a book that a lot of people have been talking about, which means I probably need to read this, and that is The Survivors by Jane Harper, and this is a devastating incident that happens in the past with horrible consequences that must be reckoned with, and you get to go along for the ride as the mystery is unraveled. Next up are the books that I'm going to be reading for the month of February, and as you'll see with some of these books, with February being Black History Month, I'm going to be looking at some more Black authors and stories with Black themes that I think is something that I infuse in my TBRs all the time anyway throughout the year, but I will take on even a little bit more responsibility for looking at these types of books and supporting these authors and the memory of these authors in one particular case. One of the books that I want to read this month is Dying for Revenge by Eric Jerome Dickey, who actually passed away on January the 3rd of this year. And he's an author that I've read before, and I've liked his books quite a bit, and he battled a long illness that I actually wasn't even aware of, and he ended up passing away on January the 3rd, 2021. So I am looking forward to reading this one. It's a very interesting story. It's also got a Detroit connection, which is where I'm originally from, so I'm excited to jump into this one and to read some more Eric Jerome Dickey books, because what I have read of him in the past I've really liked, and so I'm looking forward to jumping into this one. Next up is a book by an author that I've always wanted to read, and that is John Edgar Wideman. And the book that I have picked up from him, and I've had it for a while, but I've always wanted to read it, and that is Two Cities. And it's billed as a love story. I'm going to read just a little bit of the inside cover just to give you a little bit of an idea of what it's about. Two Cities is a redemptive, healing love story that brings to brilliant culmination the themes John Edgar Wideman has developed in 14 previous acclaimed books. It is a novel of bridges spanning the rivers of Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, bridges arching over the rifts that have divided our communities, our country, and our hearts. So it's I'm really excited about this one. I want to find this other part that I wanted to read. That gives you a little bit. A self-educated eccentric who roamed the streets with his ancient camera in a shopping bag, Mallory fled from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh late in life. Racked by painful memories, he leaves behind an astounding legacy, a box of photographs that hauntingly document half a century of African American history, from the move debacle in Philadelphia to the high tensions and everyday sorrows of Pittsburgh's black community. After he dies, Cassima must decide what to do with the pictures, which she promised she would burn. At a moment of explosive neighborhood confrontation, the photographs provide her with an unexpected means of healing her community and herself. So I'm really excited about reading this one. I've heard great things about John Edgar Wideman as a writer, and this could open up some doors to read more John Edgar Wideman books in the future. Next up is a book that I saw on Amazon. It popped up and it just really grabbed my attention. It's called The Black Friend on Being a Better White Person by Frederick Joseph. And there's a quote on the front from Jacqueline Woodson, who is an author that I've read a lot and I really have a lot of respect for. She's a National Book Award winner. And she writes, "For every white person who ever wanted to do better, inside this book, Frederick Joseph offers you both the tools and the chance." So I'm really excited to check this one out. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting book. Just a little bit more from the inside cover. So just if you'll indulge me just for a little bit. We don't see color. I don't know black people liked Star Wars. What hood do you live in? For Frederick Joseph, life as a transfer student in a largely white high school was full of wince-worthy moments that he often simply let go. As he grew older, however, he saw these as missed opportunities not only to stand up for himself, but to spread awareness to those white people who didn't see the negative impact they were having. So I think it gives you an idea of where this is going, and I'm really excited to jump into this one. I think this is going to be a good, fast, and significant read. Next up is a book that I've had for a while and I've been meaning to read it. It got put on a shelf and then I just pulled it off of that shelf, and that is The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reed. And this is an interesting one for me because it's set in Los Angeles during the Rodney King verdict and the subsequent riots that happened on the streets of Los Angeles. And so it has to do with a group of friends, and they are, of course, in the midst of the civil unrest that was taking place in the wake of the Rodney King verdict, the wake of the Rodney King beating at the hands of Los Angeles police officers, and, of course, the verdict that went down that caused so much that happened back in the early 1990s. So I'm definitely excited about reading this one. It sounds like it's going to be a really fun book, and I'm really looking forward to checking it out. Next up is a book that I've had on my shelf for a while, and I haven't read it because it sounds like one of those books that's going to just gnaw at me and make me uncomfortable and probably irritate me at best and piss me off at worst. But it sounds like a really important read, and that is An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. And a captivating love story that also is a clear-eyed look at the effects of injustice in contemporary American life. Tayari Jones' novel gorgeously chronicles three people who are bound together and separated by focus beyond their control. As newlyweds, Celestial and Roy are living the American dream. He is a young executive, and she is an artist on the brink of an exciting career. But after Roy's incarceration for a crime he did not commit, Celestial, bereft and unmoored, turns to childhood friend and Roy's best man, Andre, for support. As Roy's absence drags on, Celestial faces soul-wrenching decisions about balancing loyalty with independence, desire with social and familial expectations, and what is right with what is fair, and to whom. Gripping, timely, and masterful, An American Marriage looks deep into the souls of people who must reckon with the past while moving forward with hope and pain into the future. So, you blend American justice, which is not always fair, with love, commitment, and right or wrong, and whose definition of right and wrong matters. So, it's going to be, I think, a really challenging read, but it's one that I've wanted to do for a while. So, I think I'm going to eventually get this one read, and hopefully that'll happen this month. Next up are a couple of nonfiction books that I've been excited to read, both of which I bought used, and they are Satchel, The Life and Times of an American Legend. Of course, the picture, Satchel Paige, the legendary baseball player that famously played many years ago, back in the Negro League days, and just put up incredible numbers, but also more significantly had an incredible story to tell. And so I'm excited to read more about this from the author Larry Ty. Also, I'm looking forward to reading Walking with the Wind, a memoir of the movement by the now late John Lewis, with writing assistance from Michael D'Orso. And John Lewis is just an incredibly significant civil rights figure when you think of what he did, what he sacrificed during the civil rights movement. And I'm really looking forward to reading his story. I've heard bits and pieces about it through different documentaries, but I'm really looking forward to seeing his rise as a young civil rights activist and being right there in the thick of what was going on during periods where people were experiencing things that we don't even want to imagine. And so I'm really excited to hear about his story, and then sort of his sort of post-civil rights era story, where he got into politics but continued to be an incredibly strong advocate. So I'm excited to read more about John Lewis. Next up, and lastly, is a book that I've had in my possession for a while. I stumbled across it on Amazon and it sounded really good. Our Hearts Will Burn Us Down by Anne Valenti. And this one really struck me at the time when I discovered it on Amazon, and I've been waiting for a moment to jump into this, and this might be coming up as a time that I want to jump into it. So, the lives of 4 teenagers are capsized by a shocking school shooting and its aftermath in this powerful debut novel, a coming-of-age story with the haunting power of Station 11 and the bittersweet poignancy of Everything I Never Told You. As members of the yearbook committee, Nick, Zola, Matt, and Christina are eager to capture all the memorable moments of their junior year at Lewis and Clark High School. The plays and football games, dances and fun drives, teachers and classes that are the epicenter of their teenage lives. But how do you document a horrific tragedy, a deadly shooting by a classmate? So it really just kind of jumps out and grabs me, and I just thought it was kind of a fascinating type of story to read about, it just is one of those stories that is probably going to be really tough to read, but at the same time, those are some of the best books, as it turns out, some of the most moving books, the ones that you probably think, oh, I don't know if I want to read, kind of like An American Marriage, but you probably should read it. So I'm looking forward to testing this one out and seeing if it really is that uncomfortable, and even if it is, maybe it's still a good thing to read it. So there you have it, my TBR for the month of February 2021. It includes some carryovers from my January 2021 TBR, and all in all, it's going to be an ambitious plan for the month of February, but I'm excited about it. I got 8 books read in January, and I got about 11-ish, not including what could be in my box, or what will be in my box, I should say, for Book of the Month, and of course, whatever else I'll stumble across over the course of the next 28 days. So we'll see what happens, but I'm excited to jump into my February TBR. Should be some really good books that I'm looking forward to reading. Let me know what you're reading. Are you reading some of the same things I'm getting ready to read? If so, let me know about it. If I'm not reading something that you're reading that you think I should be reading, let me know in the comments below.